it was very interesting to me that the Earth is so bright from the clouds that it is actually hard to look at.
Hey, since we're going discussion style, like you mentioned, I'll add a couple comments on color. I didn't notice color changing my view, except maybe, like Victor said, I didn't realize it when I looked down at the PCD and back, because I do think there was a time scale there where you saw things a little differently if you just stared for a long time. And sometimes even staring out to the blackness to kind of reset and come back. So I think that is a note. We were very much reliant on PCDs for instruction, but that did cause our eyes to constantly refresh on those colors. I didn't notice necessarily a color difference, but just like a quality of observation, maybe like he was saying, like the details or the contrast. So it might have even been a night vision thing. Yeah, that's all I'll say on that. I did want to mention that when we were getting the really, really high amount of light into the windows, even the shrouded windows from the sun, the reflection on things behind the observer that are in the cabin was really strong on the window. So there's some high albedo things behind our heads, like there's a white bar, the abort sticker on the RHC, some other metal things, like we have some white bungees. I was trying to observe the dark side of the moon during the Earth set while the Earth was behind it, and I ended up asking Reed to give me some black t-shirts, and we covered all of that stuff so that the reflection was just less in the glass, and it worked so well. It basically made observing for impact flashes possible, whereas it wouldn't have been otherwise. So that's a good tip, and I would even recommend, like maybe as part of your stuff, if you have this in the future, like a black room, a dark room cloth or something to lay behind the observers. Finally, back on the question of moon color change during Earth set, the other thing that happened, which was kind of, I think, just more in the category of like a mirage or something, even though I recognize there's no atmosphere around the moon that would cause the same things as mirages on Earth. There was definitely an effect, like when the Earth actually set, of like when it first touched the moon, it was like your eyes didn't know what to do at that boundary, and it kind of just created a lot of light in that spot. Once it got below that tangent first touch, then it got more normal, and I was able to just see the Earth and see the moon and see their contact. That's all for me. Anybody else on this question?
Thank you, Christina. And as I think I saw you notice, we did just get video a couple minutes ago, so it's nice to see you as we're talking to you. Next question is for all of you. Ohm crater was observed by all four of you, and we're interested in whether your different viewing angles resulted in how you observed Ohm. Jeremy and Reed saw it first. Were you able to see the ejecta rays, the central peak? And then Christina and Victor, you were next, and you observed Ohm later in the past. Could you resolve similar or different features than what you're about to hear from Jeremy and Reed?
The ejecta blanket for Ohm, I mean, it definitely changed as we went around the moon, but it did not change that much. It was always there. It was always fairly apparent. What is more apparent than the ejecta is the brownish gray, darker area that makes the 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock cut of the pie shape. Like that was always very apparent, and the ejecta rays just made that contrast much more apparent. But overall, Ohm did not change drastically as we went around the moon, unlike Oriental, which drastically changed as we went around the moon.
And I'll keep going there. I'm kind of going to read this question, but it was later on in the orbit that I noticed the ray of Ohm, like the primary ray of Ohm that comes out of roughly the 3 o'clock position, was on the Mare. And I'm not sure if I was picking that up initially in our first observations, but definitely in the latter. Did you notice that at all? No, the near side Mare, yeah. Yeah, Reed says he was noticing that the whole time. That might have been more noticeable to me later on, but that would be the only delta.
Understood, Reed and Jeremy. Curious to hear Victor and Christina's thoughts after hearing you guys.
For the later observation, I was able to see into the crater wall on the east side, and the shadowing there was actually neat, so I could see layers of shadow, so that there's kind of like two faces, or maybe three. I couldn't tell because we were so far away, but I could clearly see light, then dark, then light, and so the layering within the interior crater wall on the eastern side. I was able to see the central area, and I actually thought I saw three distinct groupings of something, and I think that's in the recording, but again, I was so far away, and my eyes were quite tired from adjusting. I was wearing glasses and looking in at the PCD and then looking out of the window out above the glasses, and so my eyes were really getting a workout. And they've definitely been changing. That's the other thing about the eyes, too. My eyes shifted on this. I'm about to turn 50, and that just was very different than 5 years ago. But I did see interior structure, and I commented on the colors, but again, from the angle we were from the surface, everything just looked plain. But the interior floor seemed to be the same color as the surface outside to the west, but the wall seemed to be a different color, which kind of made was the same color as the rays and I think the central lift, but I said this in my recording, and it's already becoming fuzzy, but I made some correlations between there, and I talked about looking at the Grand Canyon, where you can see different layers and know that this is the same as that, even though they're not connected. I think the interior, the floor, and the wall maybe had different color or albedo, and I don't remember which one I said in the recording.
I'll pile on with your question. We just brought up the LTP because I forgot that while I was doing this, because there was no shadows on this whatsoever, I think it was towards the end when it was just in full light and very little relief, I kept losing Ohm itself. And I actually thought that there was a crater northeast of Ohm that is at the center of those kind of starfish rays. There actually looked like there was a very simple and old crater there, and that is what I kind of actually went back and forth between that one and now what I see is true Ohm, and I wish I would have referred back to my PCD at the time. But I think the lesson learned here is without any relief, it is very difficult to sometimes make out craters, especially here where the rays are actually offset from where the crater itself is. So you're drawn into a spot, and I am so surprised right now that there's not a little crater where those rays meet, because in my mind, there was, and that was Ohm.
Hey, that reminds me of something else we talked about earlier. When Reed and Jeremy were in the windows, I remember looking out and I'd said something to you. I think that it doesn't look like purely rays. I did see the continuous feature of that east-west run, that 3 o'clock ray all the way into the near side Mare. There's some interesting something going on there. But at first, it looked to me like just two different, like a contact of two different materials coming together, or two different age materials coming together. And when we got on the far side, the far side view, where I was looking back at it, I mean the later view, it still looked like, I don't know, it sometimes didn't look like a ray, it just looked like different color material. And really the point of this is not to talk about the 3 o'clock ray and the 12 o'clock ray, it's to talk about the wedge. The wedge looks to me, if you remember my recording comment about continents, I kind of had the near side Mare continent, the middle from Ohm to Oriental, and then the Hertzsprung continent. Those colors in the wedge look like, and not they look the color of, but also the concrete kind of packedness of what's around Hertzsprung. Those look similar, so that's kind of also playing tricks on my eyes between rays and just different material, not just a ray laying on top of the material.
Thanks a lot, Victor and Christina. Wow, we're really looking forward to continuing to dive into this when you guys are back with us on Earth. We want to sign off now to get you guys over to your next activities. Before I do that, I'll just say when you're making those annotations about the impact flashes, any annotations you want to provide about the structures in the corona you saw during the eclipse, we would take those annotations. And that's it for me. It was so wonderful to talk to you over the last 2 days. Thank you again, and can't wait to see you all back here on Earth. Thanks again for what you did for science.
You guys did an extraordinary job of preparing us. We really appreciate you. Can't wait to talk more about this. This was too short. For the sunset recording, if you're looking for that, it's on PCD3, and the file name is recording, open bracket, 13, close bracket.
Copy all, Integrity. Science is over and out.